Okay, so later on I might ask us to rearrange the room, but for the moment, a little bit, but for the moment, could you just make sure I can see faces? That means make your... Actually, why not move forward? Yeah, that would be great. Into, well, give yourself a bit more comfort there. Thank you. So Stephen is always asking me what to give him the names of Teishos. It takes a while sometimes for Teishos to find their name. But in this case, I think this one might be called Practice, the Art of Changing Your Bones. Mm-hmm. So I want to start in from Dongshan's Heat and Cold, or Cold and Heat. This is case 43 of the Blue Cliff Record. And for those who haven't really met Dongshan very far, trust me, he is one of the most, what's the word for it really? He's very human. He's the one who assured the monk who cried out in horror at a frog being torn apart. In front of him, he said, "It is only for your benefit, Acharya." And that is a great and demanding offer, to inquire into how something harsh, tearing, painful can become considered to be only for your benefit. What is this benefit? When the monk has cried out, why does it come to this? Keep in mind Jarjo's comment that when did anybody ever cry out in pain for nothing, uselessly? There is great value in our pain. We have been exploring that at different times. And I want to explore it in another way tonight. So here's the case. Dongshan was asked by a monk, when cold and heat come, how can we avoid them? Dongshan said, well, why not go where there is neither cold nor heat? The monk said, oh, how is it where there is neither cold nor heat? Like, where is this wonderful, comfortable place? Dongshan said, when it is cold, kill yourself with cold. When it is hot, kill yourself with heat. And the other way that this can be translated is actually like this. When it is cold, it kills you with cold. When it is hot, it kills you with heat. That sounds a bit savage. But is it? What is this? Being killed or killing yourself with heat and cold. So the monk asks, when cold and heat come, how can we avoid them? This is a kind of move that your mind and my mind makes frequently. When there is something uncomfortable, how can I move off from this? The mind is already leaping forward with suggestions of how to avoid, how to make escape attempts, how to elude reality, in fact. How to get out of the truth of suffering, as the Buddha put it, the truth of suffering. How to avoid the truth of suffering and the fruits of that truth. From another point of view, it is worth noting that Dongshan had a very intemperate monastery. It did get very cold in winter and was very hot in summer. But what's wrong with that? I remember Basho, that wonderful Basho verse. Cold autumn rain, no rain had. So? So? Dongshan says, well, why not go where there is neither cold nor heat? He's offering something very interesting here. And when the monk says, how is it where there's neither cold nor heat? Hakuin has an interesting comment about this response. Hakuin Zenji. He says he conceives an interpretation following the words, not realizing he's been given a method of changing his bones. He's been given with this response a method of changing his bones. Well, Dongshan helpfully gives him a little more of the method. When it is cold, kill yourself with cold, or when it is cold, it kills you with cold. When it is hot, it kills you with heat. We've talked at various times in this session of the falling away of the sense of self, sometimes called the Great Death, sometimes simply called forgetting yourself more deeply, more profoundly, losing this mosquito wine of the self, at least for a moment or two, a deep and open moment or two. Dongshan is talking about a more thorough kind of process of transformation here. Hakuin fairly calls it changing your bones. Going all the way into your bone marrow, transforming things at the very essence of your being. So when he says, kill yourself with cold, or it kills you with heat, he's offering and pointing to when that sense of the self extinguished, you might put it that way. Extinguish yourself with cold, extinguish yourself with heat. At such a point, when the sense of self is extinguished, as in has gone deeply, deeply quiet, has nothing more to say, that can be described as a state of great freedom. Untrammeled freedom of response can arise right there, because it is the totality, it is the entirety of what is in the moment and in the field of the moment that is actually responding. That is actually just manifesting itself through someone you would have a moment or two ago have called yourself. So there's a poem, a verse attached to this in the Blue Cliff record, and has these two interesting lines in it. One of them is, the ancient palace of crystal glows in the moonlight. Now we had that image last night of the crystal palace. In the crystal palace there is no one who knows. Remember that one? So the crystal palace, the ancient palace of crystal, this is obviously what would you call it really? An extraordinary matter that is completely transparent at the same time as extraordinary. You can see through crystal. It is your gaze is not met by any barrier, by any moment of separation. So the ancient palace of crystal glows in the moonlight. We all know what moonlight means, don't we? Moonlight is the clarity of the mind and heart. Unclouded, brilliant, and yet you could say soft-edged. It doesn't shine harshly. It is an intimation rather than a kind of light bearing down on you as though you might be the suspect donkey. So it lights things up with such delicate kind of touch. And in that moonlight, although the moon itself is reflected very clearly in the water of the mind, the self, at the same time it moves. There's a wonderful moment when Dogen speaks of the moon reflected in the dewdrop. Every dewdrop completely contains the full reflection of the moon. And of course, if the water is broken by, say, a stone thrown in, the reflection of the moon is broken. And then it completely comes back, unbroken. So the ancient palace of crystal glows in the moonlight. You see right through, right where you are. And then the following line has endeared itself to me all day. A sneaky dog goes up the stairs for naught. So here's the crystal palace, and there's a sneaky dog trying to find an entry through the back door somewhere. Going about looking for the comfort of explanations, a rationalizing way of approaching this extraordinary matter. So who doesn't recognize that sneaky dog? Looking for the easy way in or through or out of or beyond whatever is the dilemma, the problem, the painfulness. Including straining deeply to realize, what is this? If only there was a back door no one had noticed yet. Someone could leave it open and you could get in. Hakuin says about this ancient palace of crystal that glows in the moonlight. He says, there is no particular one statement that settles the universe. Of course, the sneaky dog wants one, but there is no particular one statement that settles the universe, that resolves, explains, accounts for this. The whole place in its entirety is the statement that settles the universe. The whole world, the whole universe, the whole earth, the whole self, the entirety. I rest my case. It resolves. What is this? It settles or resolves. What is this? And as the thrush is sort of reinforcing there, this place in its entirety is an infinitely roomy, big place. Vast emptiness, nothing holy. And therefore everything matters, everything counts, because nothing is singled out as holy or unholy. Perhaps tomorrow we might look into the whole world is medicine in relation, look back at this from that point of view, with a couple of other aspects. But that sense of settled would be something like the verse yesterday. Remember the blueprint for the seamless tomb included, the water is calm, the river is clear. This sense of settled, your heart at rest, your heart finally completely settled and at rest in this very body, the Buddha. So, Perhaps this monk is something of a dog trying to sneak a way out of discomfort, looking to be right, looking to be more comfortable. I mean, from a simple point of view, when it is cold, put on another layer. When it is hot, take that layer off. So is that enough? Is that what Dongshan's... is that why this went into the Blue Cliff record, this case? Because no one had thought about taking all the clothes. Probably not. Heat and cold, then, what are they? What are they bringing forth here? Well, it's quite a poignant fact that it's hard to avoid the context we now live in of heat and cold, extremes of heat, and probably extremes of cold implicated by those extremes of heat too. In other words, global warming, as I prefer to call it. And that's a whole interesting matter, because in the light of this crisis that strangely virtually every politician on earth has turned their back on and is resolutely staying turned away from it for now. But at the same time, it is possible to take some value from Dongshan's bone-changing matter here. And in the book that I wrote a while back, I do actually take up that case in the light of global warming. But I don't want to do that tonight. I want to look at the question of heat and cold as states of our mind, states of painful feeling, states of painfulness, painful feeling. So, hot states. Anger comes to mind. Rage, humiliation, perhaps shame. Cold states, certainly fear. Fear feels cold. Denial. Envy, perhaps, is a cold state. Jealousy, maybe a slightly hotter version. And there can be anger in cold form as well, which is one of the most creepy forms of anger. It's almost better to have your sort of be scorched than it is to be frozen by anger, perhaps. Cold anger sounds or feels like the withdrawal of love, complete withdrawal of love. Hot anger at least seems to have some feelings of caring somewhere there, perhaps. But in each case, these things are often referred to as negative emotions. That seems to imply we have to cast them out. They've got a minus in front of them, a negative sign. We must be positive. No. I think we can say confidently that all of these are painful feelings that are very hard to endure with and very hard sometimes to shake off. But we remember immediately our third great vow, Dharma gates are countless. I vow to enter them. I vow to wake to them. So clearly, I'm afraid to say, these hot and cold states of mind and of feeling, they are beckoning Dharma gates. And therefore they have great value. They offer access to the truth of suffering. Each of these sort of tight, difficult matters, and we can take them up later, maybe look at some examples. Each one of them is a chance to see all the way through yourself. all the way through to the expansive whole of it. W-H-O-L-E, whole. Buddhist posed a question and then answered it in one of the sutras. He said, what is wisdom? It is the ability to perfectly understand and patiently accept the truth of suffering. Truth of suffering. What is this? Obviously it begins in recognition of suffering. It is possible to be reacting so fast that you're not even aware of the suffering that is provoking the reaction. And so all of these painful states are, of course, states of a highly reactive mind. The mind in a highly reactive state. So to be able to notice that there is suffering is the first sort of most elementary stage of the truth of suffering. To perfectly understand and patiently accept the truth of suffering, surely that would line up with some of the lines in the Metta Sutta. For example, freed from hatred and ill will. Hatred, of course, is both a hot and cold. It's kind of painful feeling, painful energy. Freed from hatred and ill will, if you perfectly understand and patiently accept the entire landscape inside that word, the truth of suffering. If you are prepared to walk that landscape, walk that land, walk the path that opens into it. The truth of suffering ends up being the constant release and flow of insight out of pain, out of painfulness, out of pain. That doesn't mean this release and flow happens without struggle, happens without a profound kind of scrutiny of this very body being attempt to be the Buddha, a self-scrutiny. But within suffering of painful states lies the possibility of a constant rediscovery of the unassailable truthfulness of suffering. You can't deny suffering. It is beyond argument. It's an inarguable truth. When painful states are strong, while they may bring with them an entire deluge of I guess you could say, reactive stories about what's going on, nevertheless, the pain itself is true. It's genuine. It has truthfulness. It has the offer of truthfulness inside that, the fact that it is real. And what comes through that is also the revelation that we all share this pain. We all respond to it. And the fruits of forbearance, the fruits of being able to forbear with these states. And that's what I'd like us to look into. You could really say that Zazen is one long inquiry into the fruitfulness of being able to stay with and not move off from. From that point of view, it is forbearance or stickability or patience. And I've sometimes pointed out that the very character for patience in Chinese depicts a sword above the heart, actually being with the heart exposed, full of feeling, painful feeling in this kind, and the sword above the heart, being able to be patient and not move off with that kind of demand within the situation. Often it feels like the demand to anything but this. Find it, Where is the place where there is neither hot nor cold? Urgent. But the sword above the heart also makes it very clear you must not move precipitously. That sword is only just above the heart. It's you have a sense of the tip of the sword touching the heart, and you don't move an inch. Patience. So when we have the word forbearance, I do like that word a lot at the moment. It's possible to say that it's already one of the three supports, sometimes they're called the three legs of the ting or ding. So a ding would be like the bell there, but with three, no, not a ting, and not a dong. Sorry about that. But with three legs, a three-legged sacred vessel. Sometimes things would be burnt in it, offerings might be burnt in it. The ding is an image that crops up in the Tao Te Ching, by the way, quite a lot. So what are these three legs? Well, one of them is forbearance. One of the three supports, one of the three things that make practice alive and bone-changing is forbearance. Another one, of course, is doubt, as in not knowing, often called great doubt, to make it clearly something quite other than petty doubt. So the third one is great faith. Maybe you could, instead of great, you could put the word fruitful in front of these. So fruitful forbearance, fruitful doubt, fruitful patience, fruitful faith, fruitful patience, fruitful doubt, fruitful faith. Or trust, if you veer away from the word faith. Then try trust, confidence. And some of you will have heard this before, but Lin Ji had his own sort of rough and yet very loving way of expressing these three. So the first, great doubt, fruitful doubt. He said, whatever confronts you, don't believe it. Whatever confronts you. Now, the moment you are confronted, you're already in a reactive state. So that reactive state, which will be painful, don't believe it. Don't grasp onto it. Don't leap and cling onto it. Don't even believe its powerful claim or declaration that comes with it. When you're confronted, there's always that, declaration about what is wrong here. And obviously it's someone or something that has confronted and made you vulnerable, made you feel shaken from your best intentions, doubted for your best intentions, unable to even reach for your best intentions, and so on. So whatever confronts you creates an intense and intensely reactive self. So he's saying, don't believe that one. Don't believe what it rises up with, claiming loudly. The second one is, whatever appears before you, shine your light upon it. Now that would include rage, the light of your mind, the clearest light of your mind that you can find. That would include rage and fear and humiliation and envy and these difficult, painful unwanted, painful feelings. And the third one is have confidence in the light that is always working inside you. The light that reveals, creates moment by moment what this is working inside you. That's a big claim. And probably every act of trust involves you agreeing to place yourself in the hands of something that seems big and hard to estimate, but you do it, like love. When you commit to the fact that you love another person, for example, you don't really know everything yet about, well, you never will, about that person. And yet you entrust yourself to this larger matter than yourself. And it's like that with this having confidence in the light, the ability to wake up that is always working inside you. The ability to realize what this is that is always working inside you, in fact, making it possible to do things like this. Or scratch your nose. Or feel terrible feelings of envy. So, the truth of suffering turns out to be these fruits of patience and of productive or fruitful doubt and of fruitful trust or faith. And faith and doubt work hand in hand absolutely closely. They, in a sense, one holds up the other, and patience ensures that they endure, that they can be, even when the practice grows arid and difficult to even approach the practice of agreeing to be present, then faith and doubt help to fuel that patience. Doubt in the form of not knowing. The ability to not know is the most generous offer that can be made in the exercise of patience. So, how do you do this? How do you be this bone-changing matter? And I want to draw your attention to attention itself, to noticing, to the fact that our whole practice really is, as IQ put it so patiently, it is attention, 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 attention. And when IQ was asked, what is attention? He said, it is attention. So there's no way out of this of attention. And of course, paying attention is absolutely not the same as sitting, thinking, in a way, in entertaining the reactive mind. That is not paying attention. That is not the offer of attention. What we invite in Zazen, Shikantaza, if you like to call it that, is a very rich kind of habitat of attention in which your whole being can live, breathe, be. And that's certainly not true of the reactive mind. It's a very thin layer of, I guess you could say, a kind of quite nasty narrative about the nature of things most of the time, a lot of the time. Mean-spirited narrative of some kind. What IQ is talking about with attention, what Dogen is talking about with shikantaza, or just sitting, is placing this radical, intimate attention on breath, on sound or sounds as they arise, on sensations. The body is an endless kind of murmur of sensation. And it can be as subtle as the feeling of warmth in the hara. That sensation, a very good sensation to be able to include in your heart and mind. And feelings and insights that come sort of on the crest of some of these waves of breath, sound, sensation, feeling. So this is this kind of process in which there is no external object, no single object. This is one of the things that sometimes people who have been trained in another part of Buddhism might find quite as difficult. No object of attention is offered. No focus of attention is offered. Instead, this rich habitat of attention is, you're invited into that, to invite yourself into that. And strange thing is that with no object, gradually there is no subject. And it's a beautiful thing. It is a very beautiful thing, very quiet, very delicate, and a wonderful matter. So through this simple, therefore demanding act of attending, you initiate a sort of a new alignment of forces. You could call one of them your will, but I would rather call that force willingness. You, in a sense, ride with willingness, not willpower in this process. Sometimes you need to steel yourself a little to not go to sleep, or perhaps to bring yourself back and, in a way, to correct the slump of your mind, to straighten it, to hold yourself towards this beautiful, including practice. And when I talk about an alignment of forces, I mean that there's a kind of force within attention itself, a power, if you like to call it that actually, it's a very subtle, quiet, comprehensive one, but very strong. It is bone-changing, in fact. And it actually not just evokes or calls up, but it manifests equilibrium. It manifests wholeness. It is, in fact, practicing wholeness. That's what it is, not so much doing as being. It is being wholeness. And that state, if we call it that, or I'd rather call it a fact, lies beyond reactive mechanisms and distractions. It is profoundly not so available to them. It is other than reactive states of mind. It is not terribly amenable to distraction. Notice when people are sitting really deeply and there's a loud crash, people don't jump out of their skins. They've already included it. The speed of light. It's just the next thing arising. And so this attention, this quality of attention, this practice of attention actually shifts from being my attention being exercised and placed and offered to something more like not exactly my attention, not exactly mine. It seems to be bigger than me or my. It's as though it is the sound of the thrush that is paying attention. It's as though the feeling of the floor when you walk is paying attention, returning this contact, this feeling, moment by moment. So you are now at the service of conscious attention. I don't know what I mean here. In this practice of active stillness, yes, you have placed yourself at the service of the attention rather than doing the attention. So there is that shift. You are serving something other than me, myself, and I. You're not doing something, a good thing for you. It's something else is going on in this matter. So this attention that is not mine is larger, more expansive than me, and it can be given to painful feelings in a way that is mysterious because it does not amplify those feelings. You can offer that kind of attention to, this is what's called working with my anger or working with my fear. You can offer that to the painful feeling. By that I mean this attention that is fairly called not mine. It's not me. It's something you have now stepped out of the sort of subject-object relationship here. Let me just read something from what I said about this in Minding the Earth. So, how to embrace unbearably hot and cold states without fear. And this is preceded by a comment that the one thing that may be equal to the utter hopelessness of a situation that a situation can induce is the shortest prayer there is, a powerful and surprising one once you dare to embrace it. Fear not. In other words, to take the position of no fear. No fear. To trust that offer. No fear in this situation. So how to embrace unbearably hot and cold states without fear? It's strong medicine to look honestly at our overwhelming predicament, to care very deeply, to never abandon that caring and be not afraid. A practice of mind, as I've been describing, it helps access a calmer, steadier sense of self, one I've been calling not quite me, not me. That can be more at ease even in difficult circumstances because it can be strong and clear enough to remember I am not my thoughts and feelings. Have a look. Is the awareness of coldness cold? Is the awareness, the attentive awareness of heat hot? When we stumble on the fact that the awareness of anger is not angry, of confusion is not confused, of fear is not fearful, something in us is freed up. So when calmed by an unmoving, friendly, this open, inclusive awareness I've spoken of, all the hot and cold states that make it hard to see clearly and act wisely reveal a surprising reservoir of energy and clarity, exactly equal in strength to the predicament, the confrontedness, the painfulness. The intensity of our fear, anger, shame, or grief about a situation is a gauge of intense caring that has been locked down or locked out or alienated from reach, who knows by what, All of us have different, I suppose, foundation stories for why a kind of response of intense caring is not available in certain situations, but waiting to be released. So, all right. It's so interesting to find that reaching this kind of awareness that I've just described, when we do, it's really quite hard to find any great interest in trying to elude the painful feeling, the painful state, the painful predicament. That just doesn't seem like the interesting move anymore. Something has already sort of begun to reveal the truth of a suffering that's going on. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a sense of the habitat is, you're starting to see the creatures in the habitat of your awareness. You're starting to have a way of moving around in it, of having confidence that there may be tigers here, but you're a tiger as well in such a situation. So the interest in what's often called escape attempts just falls away, or what you might call it sneaky dog behaviour. And yeah, if we have a moment or two, I'd like to open this up to just a moment or two, maybe 10 minutes of shared inquiry about what I've just opened up here. But just before I do, I want to bring this together with two things. One is a saying that you will have heard. It comes from a case where Yun Men spoke. And he himself was repeating an enduring perennial statement that runs through Chinese and Japanese culture now. And that is the statement that every day is a good day. And when Yun Men offered that, he was asking us to say, he said, look, I'm not interested in talk about enlightenment right now. I want someone to say a few words about, after you have touched the matter, how do you live then? Words to that effect. And no one could answer. No one could respond. That was a commonplace in Yun Men's monastery. They zipped their lips and waited. And so he said, every day is a good day. Now, in that word good is the entire, sometimes painful and certainly bone-changing process I've been attempting to describe tonight. So that good has no relationship to good versus bad. It is vastly more inclusive than any such thing. And I want to mention too, a very moving thing at a Melbourne session a couple of autumns ago. A very young student turned up called Jack, and he was very, very thin, and you could see the marks of having gone through, I don't know if you were there, Ross, but he had the marks of having been through tremendous suffering, illness in fact, and he did in fact have a condition that had a very strong likelihood that his life would be very short thereafter. He was, I think, 17 and a half, 18, probably the youngest student who's ever been at Sesshin. He was there for 3 days, as I remember. He had received his diagnosis and gone through a huge, I think it was a lymphoma condition of some sort. So painful treatment in hospital for about 6 months. But he commented to me that when he received the diagnosis, what flashed into his mind was something that he heard said when he was an exchange student in Japan. He said it was this: every day is a good day. And he meant the day of that diagnosis. And he moved me greatly. He had seen into Yun Men's good day. and his ability to not protest his condition was profound. And surely at the heart of whatever confronts you, don't believe it, is the invitation to find the ability to not protest your situation and thereby to open it up hugely. When the protest has died down, when the confrontedness is simply quietly put aside, what is present then? Except this, and it's this. And the other one, which ties in with this, is Linji's probably equally challenging remark. There is nothing I dislike. Again, you can see how this is an entry to endless Dharma gates. It is also the fundamental practice of not picking and choosing. It's the fundamental practice of not moving towards or away from a single thing, but being here, now, and the presence of here and now. But also look into the fact that at the beginning I talked about the sense of self dropping away. Well, when there is no I, no strong I being created by this confronted feeling, or this feeling of dislike or pushing away, when there is no I, what opens up is there is nothing that is not like me. There is nothing here that is not intimately like me. It's a way of turning around. There is nothing I dislike. There is nothing that is not like me. And if you can take that into those reactive moments, look at how that opens those up. There is nothing in this feeling of I'm so angry with that person. There is nothing in the person who makes you so angry that is not like me, that is not also me. So it is a gathering in, a way of, again, turning things around. When you turn things around, you become Buddha, you become awake.